really start the process of facing self. Yeah. When you really get into the process of facing self, metaphorically and sometimes figuratively, metaphorically and sometimes literally, sitting down with yourself. And you begin to dissect what you've been pondering. When you really start to dissect what you've been pondering, taking it from the space of realizing that you are the constant, you then realize that a solution without self-accountability is just prolonging the problem. Divine Rise. Good morning to some, because some of you need to face a death. Blessed be to your day. May it be everything that you require to create everything that you desire. Understand that healing is destructive. You are deserving, but you are not entitled. And the level of honesty that is required to face self becomes the opposition to what you believed you were entitled to. So you can tap into that process. I'm going to say what I said the first time again. When you really start to dissect what you've been pondering and take it from the point of seeing yourself as the constant, you start to assess your standard. Your standard evolves as you face your perspective. Your standard evolves as you assess your own perspective. You start learning these deeper aspects of yourself. What gets triggered a lot of times that I had to learn, was never my standard. My standard never, what's up? My standard was never triggered. My standard was never triggered. It was my expectations based on basically being stuck within circles of entitlement. So when it came time for solutions, my solutions came in comfort. That means it was always remember, comfort is just simply reaction. Since I was always used to this, and I thought that's the way that it should have been, okay, cool, I'm used to hard times, I'm used to my life being hard, I'm used to this. I was in this used to mindset, as my brother would say. Since I was used to hard times, I was used to putting everything into something. I was used to doing that so many times. I thought that my solutions only could come through my comfort zone. That means no matter what happened, no matter what I was doing, no matter where I was at with myself. Ooh, look at that hawk. No matter where I was at with myself, I only could see one move. Now, when I've talked about I've talked about that one move before. I only knew one move. I only perfected one move or one sequence to the sequence of my life, to the sequence of how I was moving inside of my space. And that one move had multiple variations of me in this sense of deserving inside of that space. So I do the same thing day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. Never applying no thoughts, no assessment to my standard. This is how a lot of times how we continuously attract other aspects of entitlement. That means there's a difference between, and I really had to learn that, there's a difference between everyone having an obstacle and everybody having an opportunity. And the only way that you can get to that point is understanding that point within inside of yourself. What do you see as obstacles and what do you see as opportunities? This is all in the power of your perspective. Where one person sees through perception, usually the reaction is always the perception. The reaction is the comfort or the perception. It's always the perception. The way that it's always been seen, the way that it's always been done, the way that it's always been achieved. But you got to ask yourself a question. Remember, everything coincides with something. So if you're willing to do this over here, it's only a matter of time before you're willing to do that over here and take some of this over there and put some of it. It's always a matter of time. But it's in the process, not what it is, it's the process. This is where a lot of us get stuck. This is where I used to get stuck a lot of the time. Because I was doing different things, therefore it was different processes. But I had to realize that it's when I was doing, truly taking that self-assessment of why I only stayed doing certain things. Remember, we've talked about this before with your emotional intelligence. You can be, and I've talked about it before, like nothing can make you what you already are. Nothing can bring out what you already are. It has to be present in order for it to come out. That means no one can, you bring this side of anger out of me that I've never had before. You bring this side of me, it's already present. They're not bringing it out. They're simply the conduit that's needed for it to come to the surface. We talk about this, we talk about spirit, we talk about that anger, that jealousy, that insecurity. It's already present. The only reason that you don't deal with it is because inside of your circles, there's an entitlement there based on that figure, based on that spirit. So that spirit of anger, the spirit of jealousy, doubt, whatever it is, that energy inside of that space, that circle feeds that energy. That's the legion to that energy. Remember how I just talked about, it's not the what, it's the how, the process of thought. How you achieve something. When you're used to achieving things one way or two ways, three ways, you can achieve things in a multitude of ways. But in the reality, the reason that you're able to attain each one of these aspects to even do it is because of that sequence. It's because of the sequence. The sequence that plays on in your mind, your thought process, and what roots and what feeds your thought process. What fuels your thought process? Think about it like this. I remember when I was younger, I remember when I was like 20, early 20s, had the mindset of, unless I gotta go to work, I'm not getting out of bed till 12. Had that thought process. Unless I gotta go to work or I have something to do in the AM, I ain't getting out of bed till 12. So naturally, because that was my perspective, the perception or the lights or whatever was created inside my space gave me that ability. Everything looked to serve my purpose. This is where that self-accountability comes in. When it no longer serves you a purpose, it ain't done playing. It ain't done playing. It's going to keep playing. See, because that purpose, that sequence, that deity, that energy that you unlocked into that space, it still needs to live. You haven't defined it. You haven't owned it or defined it. You are playing along beside it. So now you'll find yourself trying to put something else in that place from, let's say, whatever new gravitates into your space. You'll try to bring something new into your space to fit that narrative. To fit that narrative. Whether it does something or not, whether it's a person, whatever it may be, you need it to fit inside of that space. Because that's your comfort zone. Because that keeps that entitlement going. Because that's what your expectations based on that entitlement. This should be like this. This should be like this. This should be, because that's the way you created your space. Yeah, gotta eat. So now you sitting inside of your space. You've lit this energy in. This new energy in. It's not like the other energies inside of your space. It's not like the other conduits inside of your space. It has you processing thoughts differently. Similar to a new job, it has you processing thoughts differently. It keeps you challenged. Now, here's the thing about those challenges. You'll accept those challenges as long as the result in which you seek serves to keep you where you're at. This is when we talk about the aspects of expectations, entitlement, and being stuck within that cipher of thought. This cipher of thought. This cipher of observance, expression, process, living. Observation, expression, process, progress. That's that cipher of the expectation. It must go through all of these points in order for you to take it in. Thought process. It must go through all of these points for it to take root. That means it must go through your process. It must go through your expressions. It must chime in your expressions. It must stay within this cipher. But this is the thing that I learned. And I made this video, it's on my TikTok now. When I started taking the self-accountability in the standard, I had to realize everything else was a byproduct of that standard. Everything else was a byproduct of my internal standard. or everything was a byproduct of my expectations. Remember that's the difference. See, when everything's a byproduct of my standard, then that means I naturally flow into that. It naturally flows. When anything's a part of my expectation, there's always that ebb or that stop, that blockage, that point to where I can't go past until I receive the charge to go past that point. Two paths. Each path can teach you some stuff. Because sometimes you need that stoppage that's coming from here to help you assess your standard. And sometimes you need that flow of that standard to help you assess that blockage on this end. That's the duality inside of your space. Sometimes you need that realization. Sometimes you need that realization in order for you to really sit down. You really needed to sit down. And we're not talking about sitting down. When I always talk about sitting down, I'm not talking about this sitting down from a space of you sit down and you immediately start seeking in thought. You start seeking. Ooh, I need to do this. This needs to be da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm talking about really sitting down and coming into that hermit phase. Now, we're in the wintertime right now. Winter is here. Nothing is growing. Nothing grows during the winter. You plant your root vegetables and things of that nature during the winter. Whatever you got stored up, that's what you're using during the winter, during the fall. That's when you're at the end of your cycle of when you're planting. You set in that paper, I'm planting this and I planted this and I put this. Okay, cool. I'm not looking for that to be used. But because of me with this expectation, that's what left me stagnant. That's what left me in that comfort zone based on reaction. That's what left me really externalizing things. We talked about this in the lecture Friday. This externalizing or intellectualizing or bringing a rational reason to the way I feel, why I feel a certain type of way. Why, like I always had this external reason to why I'm at where I'm at. So now naturally, since I'm the way that I feel the way that I am or the way that where I'm at, I'm not looking at the where. I'm looking at where I'm at and not the R. I'm not looking at the R. The R is that process. Why are you here? Not where am I at? See, that externalized process had me thinking about where am I at. That externalized process had me thinking about where I am at. So since I'm on the external process thinking about where I am at, my process of thought is what I need to do to move from where I'm at, not realizing that the where I'm at is because of where I am or who I am, what I really are inside of that space with myself. Am I really, and remember, everything else is a byproduct of this process. Am I really mentally, emotionally, physically, consciously looking at myself? That means when I go look into the mirror, I'm staring in the mirror for longer than 5 minutes. As an example, I'm staring in the mirror for longer than 5 minutes and going past the fact that, oh, I might need to shave. Or, oh shit, I need to put on some eyeliner. Shit of that nature. Am I really looking into that mirror and asking myself, who am I really? Who is this? Who is this? See, that's one of the major keys when it comes into breaking that entitlement loop. I had to break that entitlement loop. It's more than just because it goes. Remember, we talk about shadow work. Go into multiple levels with this. There's the levels of where that's broken for you. That means everything inside of your space is actively breaking it. Exactly. Where I'm at versus where I'm, like, who I am. Yeah, exactly. So I'm sitting inside the space and I'm really sitting there thinking. I'm allowing the emotions to come up. Remember, I'm always telling you about emotional presence. That means I'm allowing the emotions to come up about my feelings inside the space. I'm going past the external point, that reaction. I'm going past the dynamic of the age. Ooh, this should have been, okay. It don't matter, cause I made this video. This video is also on my TikTok. It don't matter if tomorrow a Brinks truck break down in front of your house. You still got to go through the process of getting that money out of the Brinks truck, past the armed guards, and into your house. Regardless, period. It doesn't matter if tomorrow whatever hits on the table, you got to have a plan for it. You got to have a plan for it. See, when we talk about manifestations, a lot of times I remember like earlier manifesting things and seeing how long it would last in my space and why I burnt out so quick is because I was putting my intentions inside of my entitlements and not inside of my standards. I was putting my intentions inside of my entitlements and not inside of my standards. Therefore, basically, I'm asking for things without us not asking for the work or the resources that would help me groom my standard. I was still stuck on catering to my perception rather than grooming my perspective, because that's where my standard lied. That's where my standard was. See, it was easy for me since from that space of entitlement to always say that I'm deserving of something. But when it came to my standard, that's what was being attracted into my space. See, your intentions, when they sit inside of your standard, that's what's attracting into your space, the work. See, there's some things, and there's some things that you can sit inside of entitlement for a short term period. That means you've done that. You know, the key the way entitlement actually can work. Entitlement, when it becomes enlightenment. Enlightenment is the aspect of you applied that information. So now you can set an intention for a short-term aspect in order to help you go forward. Entitlement must become enlightenment. That means I must face into the darkness, burn out this light before I bring new light to the surface. That's the intention. That's what the standard does. The standard, you elevating and assessing your standard, it burns out the old light. It's something similar, like, think about like this. You got all fat friends. Oh, none of your friends got hair. Or whatever friends ain't got no hair, friends ain't got no beards, friends is fat, whatever it may be. Let's use this example. And you start going along the process of growing out your beard, growing out your hair, losing weight. Now you're stepping into a new standard, a new path of enlightenment. But in order for that path to be illuminated, it must get dark first. Everything got to get dark around it in order for you to see that path. Because if everything's lit up, then I can't see the path. The path that is narrow, that is only meant for me in that space, because I took that thought. So now I'm like, ooh, I can walk this one right here. I'm going to walk it. 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 So now your standard changes. The weight starts to happen. You go through the dead phase. Me, one time a year, two, maybe 4 times a year. Every quarter, I don't know if you've seen them videos. Every quarter, once every 3 months, if you've ever seen me look on a live, I look damn near dead. My face is pale. I don't look like I am now, as I see myself now. It's because I had to go through the shed. See that aspect? Every season you can shed. Every season something sheds. See, we only wait a lot of times based on entitlement, based on the expectations, based on as long as we're basing ourselves on the more that I do, the more I can achieve. But you got to understand, in every season that you go into, there is a shedding period. Every season that you go into is a shedding period. And you can skip this shedding period inside of a season, but you just carry it on to the next season. That means everything that needed to be shed in the last season that you brought to this season, even though you said I didn't cut everybody. No, we're not talking, because it doesn't matter what you cut out, what you cut off, what you add on. If you don't understand a real reason, the emotional underlying of why that was able to attach to you so easily, is nothing but an accessory. You can't bring guns in the club. You can't bring the gun in the club. You try to get into you try to hit that VIP section in the club. You gotta get the membership. See, this is when we're talking about Aquarius and the age of knowing, this is the age of you subscribing to the membership with yourself. See, the old paradigm was just, let's get all the information. No, now you got to subscribe to where you got to subscribe to where you are. See, everything else in the old paradigm, the old aspect of yourself, everything you was doing, it was based upon plug and play. If you didn't have the TV, think about it. If you didn't have the TV, you can go to Walmart, you can go to CVS, you can go to Best Buy, Radio Shack, whatever electronic store inside of your space, and you can go get that little converter and you can plug it to the back of your television and play your system. Whatever you wanted to plug into it, you can plug it in through there. This ain't the space no more. You can't keep using that old RF box or the old converter box to try to get what you need to see now. This is not about where you're at. This is about where you are. Taking ownership in where you are. The groundwork that's needed in where you are. Because what you gonna do? Wait, what, higher interest rates? Look at your track record. This is why I always say, look at your track record. Look at your track record. Look at your track record. The one thing that's constant is you inside of your patterns, your track record, and how you react to things. How I was reacting to shit was, remember, reaction is simply just the comfort. So since I'm reacting based on my comfort zone, and I don't get the reaction, then of course, what do you think I'm going to think? Oh, that's not that. Okay, cool. My job don't care. They don't care because they're not reacting. They're not coming back at me. They're not saying what I need them to say. They're not saying what I'm used to being said. They're not saying what I'm used to saying to myself. Blessings. They're not saying what I'm used to saying to myself. When I'm sitting alone in my room, I just stare at the wall. They're not saying what I'm saying to myself. They're not saying what I want. But you got to see if they're saying what you need. See, inside of that space, where you at? We can stay. I used to stay inside of those spaces where, like, yo, they give me good information. They told me about this, and this. But here's the thing. If it's really new information, it gives me the aha and I want to go study it some more. That means it's going to force me to study. It's going to force me to, like, you know what? I don't understand what the fuck that means. I need to go sit down with it. That's how I know what new information is. Everything else is just, okay, it's the same usual process. And when it gets to the point where it's the same usual process, and I know that I've done that self-assessment with self, I allow it to, it's where it's at. It's only when I have not done the internal process to myself that I realize I wanted to react. I wanted to be mad. I wanted to project anger. I wanted to project my fears onto everything else. I wanted to project my lack of accountability on everything else. I wanted to set that tone on everything else because I had that expectation. But the weirdest thing, craziest thing about your expectations, you'll never live up to your own expectations. You can act like you lived up to your expectations, but your expectations are condensed light. My expectations are based on preserving. My expectations and entitlement are based on preserving something. So as long as I got an expectation, that means I'm trying to preserve something in my space so I can stay with the same pattern behaviors and habits. I'm not ready to face myself. I'm not ready to go through the dawn of the morning. Go through my dusk till dawn. I'm not ready for that. And I had to be this is when I talk about this shit being destructive. You got to be real honest with that process. Because once you start this process, that's where you can get stuck. Some people are stuck on the river Styx right now. They stuck right there on the boat in the center of the river Styx right now. They are stuck standing in the graveyard at the mausoleum that leads into their underworld, and they're just standing there. So everything behind them is an illusion, and this is the thing, once you face that point, everything that you see projected behind you, that's everything from your own mausoleum, your own underworld. So all you're doing is looking at yourself. All you're doing is reacting to your own shit. That's what's all behind you. It's just that now you looked at it. You've gazed upon the abyss. You've gazed upon the divinity. The divinity being those demons that you have not dealt with. The divinity being those emotional aspects of yourself that you haven't dealt with. And you walked into that space. You wanted to dance inside of that space. But now you turn it around like, I don't want to go in there. Here's the thing. The moment that you look into that void, the moment that you look into your void, the moment that you did that mirror ritual, the moment that you did that candle ritual, the moment that you did that meditation that opened that shit up, you've been in there ever since. You've been in there ever since. You've been in that loop ever since because you accepted that circle. You accepted seeing that circle. I had to accept that damn, nigga, I'm already in here. I got to keep going. There's no going back except not unless I'm repeating some shit. So then I had to look at everything that was going on was a repeat. Even though it was somebody different, some other job, whatever it may have been. Always something different. That was only the illusion on the outside. It was still the same thing. It still had the same entitlements and it still had the false perception of enlightenment to enlighten me because it made me feel good. This is when I talk about your grandmother told you this shit gonna make you feel good, not better. I mean, feel better and not good. It ain't gonna taste good, it's gonna make you feel better. That's the mindset or the space that you come into when you looking like, oh my God, nigga, I really gotta sit down with myself. I really gotta have that conversation. I really gotta have that conversation. I keep running away from I keep running away from the tools because it's going to take me outside of my comfort zone and force me to sit down. It's going to force me. Remember, I talked about this last week. You're not scared of your perception of others changing or their perceptions changing of you. You're scared to that once you tap into your perspective and you sit with it, you realize that's where every time that you hear that echo of, I should have did this sooner, where do you think it comes from? Every time that you have that same echo of, I should have did this sooner. Or, okay, cool, I'm going to start. It comes from the same space. It ain't coming from it's coming from your same space. Every time that you spoke that, okay, cool, now it's time for me to do this, or, all right, cool, what about this? They came from the same space. One is based upon the aspects of your pattern, and the other one is based upon the process of the plan. That's your decision. Where am I going to go? See, it was easy in like the earlier parts for me. Even this, like, think about for me. It was easy. Go grab a book, read it, read a book, buy some candles, do some simple shit. 1 second. Oh, shit. To the Alright, we back. Drink a gallon and a half of water every day. You gotta ask yourself, that's what I mean by this level of honesty. Because it was easy. Grab some books, and on the weekends read, or on this day read. But when you start reading, I'm reading on demonology and demons, the demons of anger. But then it was time to apply it. And see, that's where that honesty comes into play. Because now you realize that your mother was a deity. Remember, I talked about these deities before. Your mother was the deity. Or the result of that demon of anger, jealousy, insecurity. That's what she was. So you still trying to see her as anything else. You getting upset with why? That was one of the hardest things for me to deal with. Was when I was like, I remember asking the spirit the same day I got my spirit, the first day I got my spirit name, my spiritual name, and got my original name for my contract, was the same day with the first day I went to my mother's house and looked my mother in the eyes. And that wasn't my mother anymore. That's this work. Look at her dead in the face. Her smiling, I can hear her voice, I can hear her smiling, I can hear her talking. But to look into her face and realize that was not my mother. Because I took on the path of becoming the feminine aspect in myself. I no longer could blame my mother for not nurturing and guiding my dreams and hopes and wishes. I can no longer blame her for that. Because all that did was gave me a sense of entitlement. Because everything that I was doing inside of the current space was reflective of that. Whatever relationship at that point in time was reflective of that. They were the inverted version. They were the inverted version. That means when my mother was passive aggressive, they were aggressively passive. When my mother was aggressively passive, they were passive aggressive. I was only repeating the same shit. When it came to the circle of the niggas I was riding with, and being able to, and in this thought process of being able to always have the answers for them, even though I knew they weren't going to take it all the way in. I could get upset all day that they weren't taking the information in, but in reality it's because I wasn't taking the information in. I wasn't doing the work. So of course, since I'm not doing the work, they not going to do the work. That would be too much like rape. That's what I mean by that perception of them, the perception, your perception of them, your perception of them, their perception of you have nothing to do with the perspective that you need to tap into. But you're going to sit there and be upset. Entitlement without the work. Yep, that straight outside mirror. Y'all remember old buddy that was battling against Prince, had to do with the mirror, show him the mirror all the time. It was fun. It was fun. I mean it. I own it because it was fun. I have no regret from having people hold up the mirror that I wanted them to hold up about me. The things that I did not believe in myself is what I needed them to always say to me. Because I didn't believe in inside of myself. And I knew I didn't see it inside of myself because every single time I had to keep saying it over and over and over again. Yep, more than Jerome. I had to keep saying it over and over and over again. And keep exciting the insatiable energies of those demons I was battling. I had to keep them playing. I had to keep them on tap. I had to keep them tapped into me. I had to keep battling them. I had to keep battling them. I needed one at work. I needed variations of the demons at work. I needed variations of the demons in my relationships. Whether or not it was there. Whether or not it was there. Whether or not in that friendship, relationship, whether it was there or not. It made the demons happy when it was there. Because over and over and over again, I just keep pushing it. Until I really sat down, was like, why am I pushing this so hard? I've said, what about me the entire time, but I said it from a victim mentality. What is it about me? See, that victim mentality, the lack mentality, that leaves you locked in that cycle. The way you sitting there with yourself and you just keep saying it over and over and over again. But from a space of victimhood. You got to go back. That's when I had to go back to that first point. I've talked about the first point of the first argument when I was 13. I've talked about the first time where my pops called me Lucifer for the first fucking time. I told y'all about the points when my mother called me an accident. Told y'all the points about I've given you the path. I've told you about the times when it was how does it feel to be able to sit inside of a position and you know something about yourself, but everybody around you, when you try to tell them, because they only know one perception of you, and you haven't fully owned that aspect, because it's going to challenge that old moral compass. And then when you step into it, you don't step back out of that darkness. That's the trick. You don't step out of the darkness. I've told the story before, like when I turned 18, when I turned 19, and I finalized, it was an argument between me and my pops. My pops was the element of jealousy, the demon of jealousy in this, to that aspect. And I remember me and him getting into a tussle and me leaving. Around this same time, the school that I was in, which represents the school of thought that I was in at that point in time, left it, went up north and was spending. This was around the same time that my father transitioned. My father said one thing: do not become me. I spent 3 years becoming him. 3 years becoming him. My way of trying to keep myself anchored and balanced was going to school. Because I was like, I don't want to, my pop said don't be like him. So I was using the same avenues that my father used to go to school. The same avenues that my father used, my family was using to go to school. Unfortunately, when you're using that avenue, there is no, but I only used it a little bit. There is no, but I only used it a little bit. You got to accept everything that comes with it. See, it's the acceptance that changes the tone. The emotional aspect that you sitting inside of that space. If I accept this, if I make this step, you got to be emotionally present for that shit to take root, for that shit to happen, for that shit to work. That has to be inside of your intention. See, those are some of my first lessons in sitting inside of a space, setting my intentions inside of what I was entitled to. Trying to find the love that I lost for the first 12 years of my life, not knowing my father. Because I kept setting my intentions inside of the entitlement of my mother should have loved me more and should have been some type of way. And it gave me the expectations. It kept me repeating the same damn cycles over and over and over again. Wondering why the same shit keep popping up. Because I was avoiding it. Shit triggered me. Made me upset. I was already mad. Can't shit make you mad. Can't shit make you jealous. Can't shit make you insecure. It's already nothing can make you anything that is not already present. But you have a choice. Either you can sit there and continue to externalize it, intellectualize it, rationalize it, to keep yourself preserving something, or you can allow yourself to become possessed by it. That's the difference between the possession. See, the reason that you have the reason I had such a possessive complex, shit that I can admit, that I had such a possessive complex because I had a lack of ownership of myself. I was reckless as fuck. Didn't give a shit. Reckless as hell. Hell, I look back some days like, damn, how the fuck did I make it to this point? With all the reckless shit I was out there. Then I'm like, damn, I've always been protected. I've always been on my square. I've always been in the position I needed to be in at the time I needed to be there. But am I willing to make the decisions to really end the curse? To really end the intergenerational trauma? That's where those expectations fall apart. That's where that entitlement falls apart. That's when you really start looking at yourself for long periods of time in the mirror. I remember sitting there long periods of time, just not even, my phone in my hand, screen not even on, just looking at myself in the screen of my phone. Going through the motions of scrolling on my screen like I'm scrolling through myself. The memories coming back of me sitting there basically going through trances, but now in a conscious state because I'm becoming more present. Everybody think about Transformers when that nigga was trying to bring the planet into this atmosphere. That is your shift. That is the gate. That is your moon ritual. When you set your intentions in order to groom your standards, to groom your perspective, to assess your standards, you start realizing a lot of shit makes sense. There is no more of the Renaissance energy. I call it Renaissance energy. There's no more of the Renaissance energy in the new paradigm for yourself. There is no more, okay, I'm going to get to it once I get this. The reason you can't get to that is because you have not done this. That's what keeps getting told to you over and over and over again. Whether it's in your dream, whether it's you getting irritated around people. Damn, that used to make me this, and this. You noticing that your time is off. You noticing that your time is off. You're noticing that you can't get everything done like you used to get it done. It's okay. It's part of the process. That old cipher is shrinking. Can't go back into that hole. Once you jumped into it, it closes behind you. Hello. It closes behind you. You can't go back through that point. There's no more of the questioning. You can still do the questioning, but there's no more of the questioning, why me? There's no more of the questioning, why me? And expecting something to give you that answer. That's what you're on this path for. You want to be Oshun, Yeminya, Haru. You want to be a Baron Samdi. One of these deities that you connect to, you got to realize what they are. My boy broke that down yesterday talking about, she was actually said the shit about Oshun and I laughed. If you didn't know Oshun was a succubus, my grandmother was based under the Oshun pantheon. She was a succubus. So it made sense the way the generational trauma, the generational lining of all of my mother and her sisters, all my mom, all my aunts were under that succubus energy. So when my mother had me, born under the nines, end of cycles, everything from her birth year, her birthday was 1/18, which was a 9. So naturally having me on the 16th was the 7, which meant creation. Then 18 hours, that's 1 plus 8, that's 9, that's the end of cycles. Yeah. Then if you want to look at it, you want to go even deeper into it, the 1 plus 6 was the 7, that was that. Then the 8 and the 4, that was 12, which is 3, which represents the Trinity. So I had my work cut out for me. Ending cycles. Ending cycles. That's what you're doing in. You're assessing the cycle that you're in and the cycle that you need to stop. The cycle that you need to stop is going to seem so charismatically, but why do I need to end it? It's working so well. Everything come at a price. Remember, law of even exchange. Law of even exchange. So you giving up a lot more to get a lot less. But that emotion, that's what make it seem so like it's happening so long. It's a different space. That circle of entitlement. That cipher of entitlement. How you used to process your shit. Yeah. Yeah. So many different processes. Even like you just look at my damn hair. Because that awareness in self forces you to look past the surface. And looking past the surface, and this is the thing about this surface level. The surface level can be of things of current. Things of current. Even all the way to the current life cycle of traumatic events and experiences that have happened inside of your life. That's the light work. That's light work. See, I've completed that. I completed those rounds my past life. So this life was like very, very, compared to the other past cycles, it was very light. But in order to step into this life cycle for me was stepping into the roles. The Father, the Son. We're going to get deeper to the Holy Spirit throughout the week. Stepping into that mother role, the father role, stepping into those roles. Accepting that, okay, I must be this. This is not about being, it's about becoming. This shit's always been about becoming. If you're not willing to become what it is to get to what you're trying to do, that means in order to become, you must accept everything that in that role of becoming. If you have any, I'm just going to do a little bit of it. Because you're just going to leave the door open. That's like leaving the door cracked open. Like, let me leave the door open just a little bit, let it come. Let me let the energy come in by itself. Let me let it just stream in. I'll take it as it comes. That ain't how it works. You open that door is open all the way. There is no more cracking the door open. There is no more going back, ooh, let me crack the door and let the heat in. All of that comes in. And each one of those aspects has an aspect to match where you at. That's the breaking point. That's the breaking point. That's the breakthrough. The breaking point challenges all of your entitlements. And that's what we're getting into this week on the God Hour podcast. The breaking point. Or the breaking or the boiling point. Last week on the God Hour podcast, we got into that progressive perspective. We got into the progressive perspective. Week before that, we got into the aspects of the perception. Because I want you to remember, I desire you to be the best. You are deserving, but you are not entitled. The one that is entitled worries about time served, while the one that is deserving only worries about the work. Only looks at the work, only thinks about is only on the process. Because as they start seeing the things come into their space, the one that becomes present understands that everything around them is temporary and is necessary for their growth. See, everything around you is necessary for your growth. If it wasn't, why is it there? Why is it there? Why is it there if it's not everything? Remember, the opportunities and the obstacles come in the same box. It depends on which hand you use to pull it out with. Everything from readings, consultations, furthering your works. Y'all stay tuned to Zoom. I'm launching the Zoom classes in January. I'm opening the registration for that. Registration for the first retreat is still happening. I'm just dropping the dates down to the end of March. A lot of things coming along the way. Everything from human design, natal chart analysis, readings, which are mini consultations, all the way to that big boy consultation. Furthering the sessions, getting deeper into yourself. Hit me up in the inbox and start the dialogue. Say it one more time. You are deserving, but you're not entitled. This healing is destructive. And the level of honesty is going to challenge everything that you wanted to be entitled to and force you to lay in that groundwork. I just desire you to be the best. I love you. We love us. Ashe.